In a distant corner of the city, fate brought together 11 strangers and challenged them, forcing them to ask questions. Why us? And what awaits us? Inside a building, surrounded by mystery and suspense, these individuals began to reveal their names and occupations in life. It seemed that each of them represented his own mystery, possessing a unique set of skills and experience. The sudden appearance of a little girl with red eyes and two pigtails awakened in them a new wave of curiosity and anxiety. She turned out to be the guardian of the mysterious place and warned the group to prepare for battle. But one of the guys, despite the warnings, was rude and decided to find out what is going on. A dark-haired guy, feeling fierce and determined, approached the fairy asking her to give the weapons to climb to the top of the tower. The red-haired girl was confused in her thoughts, not understanding what kind of tower and weapon they were talking about. He continued his convictions. A famous two-star warrior had just died, and couldn't they have been provided with at least basic weapons? Noticeable tension filled the air as the heroes realized the gravity of the situation and the importance of every decision. They understand that they were facing a huge test and that they would have to rely on their own strength and ingenuity. However, questions about the tower, weapons, and the mysterious events ahead of them remained unanswered. All the heroes were on the verge of making a decision to accept the requirements of the fairy and enter the unknown world empty-handed, or to look for the other ways to get the necessary weapons. Each decision could have consequence, and they knew that they would have to take risks and show maximum courage and cooperation in order to overcome the dark obstacles that lay ahead of them. The little fairy addressed the master, warning him that the heroes lacked the necessary equipment, and asked if he would be willing to provide them with weapons to increase their chances to victory. The carpenter from Adola supported this request by reaching out to the guy who originally requested the weapons and asking what he knew about the place they were in. The guy admitted that his knowledge of the place is limited, since he has not been here for a long time. The red-haired girl quietly repeated his words. "Have you been there for a long time?" These words aroused in her a vague feeling of anxiety and distrust of the situation. The guy advised to others to go to the arsenal and pick up weapons, explaining that the battle would begin soon. Ignorance permitted each of them. They did not understand what kind of battle, about what tower, and why they needed weapons. None of them had ever fought, but it was clear to them that they no longer had a choice and they must pick up the weapons. The fairy, like a commander, ordered the first 5 people to go forward. The heroes felt a mixture of fear and determination within them as they prepared to engage in a mortal combat, not even knowing who or what lay ahead of them. They accepted this challenge, took responsibility for their destiny, and decided to overcome all the difficulties that stood in their way, although they had no idea what awaited them and how they could cope with it. The girl, watching Han use the shield to enter the rift, decided it would be wise to team up with him. She began to ask him a lot of questions. Why do they need weapons? Does he know what is behind the gate? And what kind of fairy is it? Han briefly replied they had few questions and they were going to the area to kill enemies, the rest did not matter. All of a sudden, reports began to come in that the members had returned to the arms of the Lord, and their fighting spirit would be remembered until the end of time. Han thought that he did not expect otherwise from the newcomers, but the girl did not understand what was happening. This was followed by a message that the first group had been wiped out and they had let lost. The fairy was furious and shocked that they had died on the first floor, and she was confused as to why the others had not returned. A second group of Han and the red-haired girl was formed, and they entered an unknown room resembling a temple. Suddenly, the gate opened and Han yelled for them to go ahead and not panic. Inside an unknown temple-like space, the group discovered that the gate had suddenly opened. Han urged everyone to go forward without panic. And then they found themselves in a completely new place, where their task was to destroy the enemies. The enemies turned out to the goblins with red eyes, a green body, huge teeth, and tongues. Goblins were armed with shields and swords. Despite the fact that no one in the group except Han knew how to fight, they had to do it, because if they did not kill, then they themselves would become victims. Suddenly, a wall appeared in front of them, indicating that there were no other way. The girl asked the guy if they killed those goblins, if they could get out. This assigned some responsibilities. The guy went into close combat, and the girl had to shoot back. Inside the temple, they met with mortal danger, but they had no choice. They had to confront the enemies in order to find a way to freedom and unravel the mystery of place. Yesterday, Han was an ordinary person, but today everything changed when the game he played reached a record number of downloads, 1 million. When he opened up the opportunity to get into the paranormal dungeon, he felt a strong shock. This mobile game offered players an exciting adventure to go through 100 floors to the tower. To get to the top, Han had to create items to improve and strengthen his heroes as well as work out tactics to successfully overcome each floor. In the paranormal dungeon, Han had to face unusual and dangerous creatures. Ready to fight to the end, he had to use his skills and wisdom to overcome all the trials he faced in this mysterious and gloomy world. With each new floor, Han learned more about the mysterious past of this dungeon and its connection with the real world. He met other players with whom he collaborated or fought depending on his strategic decisions. Han plunged deeper into his exciting game. Han plunged deeper into the exciting game, facing challenges, risking his life to reach the top of the tower. He was ready to do anything to surpass himself and become a legend in this world where reality and virtuality merged. Now, in this dangerous and exciting adventure, Han had to show his masterful tactics, collect the best team of heroes, and go through each floor to reach the treasure top of the tower and become a real hero of the paranormal dungeon. The maximum rank of the heroes in the game was 7 stars, and here's in the failure that did not let out hero go. Everyone around already had heroes with 7 stars, but he didn't have the kind of luck. However, in the dungeon where he was, there was a small chance of obtaining the Book of Reversal, an item capable of creating a hero with 7 stars. The guy thought about it and decided why not try it. Indeed, in this game the rules were quite harsh. Each hero had only 1 life, and the number of stars did not play a role because their restoration was impossible. The dungeon opened its door to him, and he decided to take a chance. He took a deep breath, mustering all his courage, and set out into the depths of the dangerous labyrinth. Each passage held a new threat, a new opportunity to obtain the Book of Revolution. The guy overcome traps, fought monsters, and was on the verge of life and death. However, he did not give up. He knew that his luck could turn at any moment. Finally, after many trials, he discovered the place where, according to the legend, the Book of the Revolution could be found. It was the last hope to create their own hero with 7 stars. With caution in every move, the boy picked up the Book of Reversal. Emotions washed over him as he opened the pages of the book, and suddenly a hero with 7 sparkling stars appeared before his eyes. It was a moment of the victory, a moment when luck smiled at our hero. He realized that even in a world where the rules seem harsh and unfair, the real power and opportunity to change his fate is always in his hands. Now, with a 7-star hero in his possession, the boy was ready to continue his journey through the dungeon. He was determined to pass all the tests, to reach the top of the tower and become a true legendary hero of this game. The guy was stunned by what was happening. His characters were filled with fear and doubt, and Dira even considered retreating. But suddenly, a character with a level of 999 appeared in the game, which seemed strange and incomprehensible to the guy. He figured it was probably a system error or some kind of glitch. Meanwhile, a message about the guy's lost appeared on the screen. He felt disappointed and bewildered. At that moment, a mysterious dark figure and glowing eyes appeared. He drew attention to the guy who was inside the game, but the guy did not understand anything, being in front of a black background. Suddenly, the icon of creating account and choosing a name appeared on the screen, although the guy did not press anything. All this only increased his confusion and incomprehension. He began to ask himself questions. What is happening? Who is this unknown character? Why cannot control what is happening? In such a situation, the guy began to realize that he was involved in something much more mysterious and dangerous than he had imagined. He realized that he had to make a decision and move forward despite his incomprehensible situation. The guy was stunned by what was happening. His characters were filled with fear. The guy, standing with the ball in his hands, looked at the next icon on the screen, which offered to start training. He understood that after its completion, a reward awaited him. However, at the moment he realized that his main goal was to climb to the top of the tower and save the world from the attacking unknown enemy that threatened these peaceful lands. The guy understood that he needed the help of many heroes to complete this task. The first test for him was to distract the goblins who broke into the city. He wasn't sure if this information was true or not, but at the moment he didn't have time to think about it. He had to act and accept the challenge to protect the city and save the world. Clutching the ball in his hands, the guy felt a growing determination and courage. He knew that he had a huge responsibility on his shoulders, and he was ready to accept the challenge and do everything in his power to defeat the enemies and reach the top of the tower. The boy, still stunned by what was happening, exclaimed, "Choose me?" He could not understand how he ended up inside the game and why everything that happened seemed so real. He looked at the building, which was painfully familiar to him, and felt that he had to make some decision. Suddenly, new messages appeared on the screen, indicating that the need to choose an ally for moving on to the next stage. The guy was still in a state of rage because he did not understand what was happening, what he should do. Suddenly, an unfamiliar girl appeared, called to help. She turned to the guy, asking who he was. Her name was Shay. The guy slowly climbed down and found it hard to find the words to answer. He told her about how he ended up inside the game, about his unfamiliar surroundings, and about his feelings of loss and confusion. Shay listened attentively to the guy and clenched her hand into a fist, said, "We must find answers and overcome these trials together. You are not alone, we have each other." Her words penetrated the boy's heart, and he felt that now he had a reliable ally with whom they could cope with any challenges they faced in this strange world of the game. With a common goal and encouraging each other, Han and Shay began their journey inside the game, hoping to find answers to their questions and defeat all opponents that stand in their way. Han and Shay joined the same team and they ended up back into the dungeon. Shay turned to a guy named Leon and found out that he was new to the game. Leon didn't even have a uniform, and it was the first time playing. However, Shay showed amazing skill, easily defeating the 5 goblins, and the stage was successfully completed. There was a huge difference in skills and experience between them, but the problem were just beginning, and the world's trails were still ahead of them. The heroes successfully coped with the battle, and only the last stage of training remained, a way to strengthen the heroes through fusion. Suddenly, a little fairy girl appeared in front of Leon and informed him that the master was waiting for him and it was time to go. Leon felt a mixture of fear and excitement, but he knew he had to rise to the challenge and continue his adventure. He mustered up his strength and followed the fairy, heading towards to the master. The guy called the fairy by name, which surprised her very much because he could not know her name. The fairy asked him his name and place of birth, not understanding how he ended up here in this game because he was a simple person from Earth. Leon refused to go through the fusion process because it would mean lying, but the fairy insisted. She explained that the merging is not equal to death, but serves to strengthen another hero by combining their powers. Leon began to realize the merging process was inevitable, and he had to accept it. He said that no player would kill their 4-star hero to pass on their knowledge and skills to a rookie. However, the merger had already begun, and Han felt a surge of strength. The girl, his ally, vanished in the rays of light. It was a difficult and emotional moment for Han, but now he has received power and knowledge passed to him through a fusion with another hero. He realized that his journey in this world was just beginning, and that he still had many trials and battles ahead of him. Han decided to continue his adventure using the powers he received to save the world and overcome all the difficulties they lay ahead of him. The guy felt the bitterness of defeat and sadness due to the loss of his ally, Shay. He realized that the master's mistake led to her death. like many other heroes in this ruthless game. He also remembered how the level 999 monster had been taunted at the moment of his transition to the world, and Han was sure that it was this monster that attracted him to the game. The guy decided to accept the reality of this world and not to give up. He understood that this was the world of the game, where he had a chance to become stronger and return home. He realized that as a rookie he had a little chance to survive, but he was determined to become stronger, take revenge, and survive. He understood that for his needed not only to strengthen his body but also his soul learn to control emotions. The red-haired girl he met earlier asked him what he was going to do. During push-ups he rudely answered her, but she explained that she was just looking for him. The guy realized that he needed allies in this world, and he decided to cooperate with the red-haired girl and other heroes in order to increase his chances to survival. Han now faced difficulties and uncertainty, but he decided to adapt and become stronger. He knew that he needed to strengthen his body and soul in order to overcome obstacles, maintain control over his emotions, and increase his chances of surviving in this ruthless world of the game. The guy realized that just sitting and regretting the past will not help them to get out of this world. Together with red-haired girl, they discussed further actions and plans. Girl was determined despite her physical weakness compared to the boy. She gained 4 start points in her first fight and showed skill and prowess in killing a goblin. The guy noticed that girl knows how to clearly set a goal and quickly respond to danger, avoiding death. He began to see her as an unpolished diamond with a great potential. Girl was busy with something and did not immediately pay attention to his words, but then she told him to go up to the tower if he needed answers. She asked her if everyone could see the statue's windows, and Fairy Isel's face froze in surprise. She did not understand what he was talking about and said that she did not understand his question. The guy felt there were a lot of secrets hidden in this game, and the statue's windows seemed to be important. He resolutely decided to go to the tower and look for answers on his own, despite the fact that Isel, the fairy, did not provide his with information. Thus, the boy and Isel formed their difficult team and faced the mysterious and dangers of his game world, seeking to become stronger and find a way to get out of it. The guy drew attention to the level 257 that hung over Isel's head and wondered how this was possible. She explained that only he could see systems, messages addressed to the master. The guy asked a question about what would happen if the master left the game. Isel replied to pray that this doesn't happen, because losing a good player like him would be a hard loss, and restarting the account is not possible due to being tied to the phone. The guy also asked if the flow of time in his world is different from the earthly one. Isley firstly refused to answer, which allowed the guy to understand that time here most likely flows differently. She cannot do anything to him, since intervention is allowed only in case of disobedience to the master or in case of self-defense. Thus, the guy decided to learn most of the rules of this world himself and understand how everything works. The guy told the red-haired girl that they need to go to 100 floors in the tower under the command of a creature called the Master through Isel. They must complete the tasks that the Master will give them, and if they get to the top, they can free themselves from there. However, they realized that the peak could be inhabited by other heroes that the master could summon. Thus, their fate still depends on the master. The guy realized that in this world, all the essentials, such as food, are automatically updated every day and can appear in his house, for example, by the fireplace or in a little closet. However, in game, items such as weapons or money cannot spawn his manner. He began to learn different ways of training and methods, and he had not known about when he himself played with the game. Soon the master will begin to sort the heroes according to three criteria: strengths of minds, skills, and physical fitness. The guy is actively the guy is actively engaged in training, preparing for this moment. On the third day of training, the master entered the game and the guy told the girl to get ready. They were expecting the master to begin assembling a group, perhaps up to 5 people, and were expecting 3 more to come. The girl told the new people to get ready, explaining that they would explain everything later. However, the new people did not understand what kind of battle they were preparing for and who this girl was. The fairy opens the rift, and the boy and the girl team quickly take their weapons as time is short. New people do not have weapons, since the old ones remained with the dead heroes. The new fighters do not understand what is happening and what to attack the fairy. However, the girl stops them and offers not to get involved in the conflict. The guy does not understand what the matter. Along with him, the red-haired girl who tried to stop him also ends up in the world. The guy says not to worry as they will soon understand everything. The new people don't understand why exactly they were chosen, especially the farmer who has no money and he thinks they made a mistake in their choice. They are located on the second floor of the dungeon and their goal is to destroy enemies. People line up in a circle with their backs to each other because they do not know exactly where they are among the enemies, which are goblins and wolves of different levels. The team agreed that the goblins would attack the red-haired girl and the wolves would target to the guy Han. So they divided their forces among themselves. The fight began and it was fierce and difficult. The weapon was not very good, but the guy had enough of this, and he deftly coped with his enemies. Then he asked the girl what happened to the goblins, to which she replied they looked like procons and were all killed. The floor was cleared and the team leveled up, although they did not receive any reward. The next floor is the third. The master continues to climb further, but the team wonders what will happen next if new fighters do not actively participate in this battle. Suddenly, the master is out of the game. The new members of the team are trying to find out about a red-haired girl named Jay, where they are, what kind of monster it is, and why they must fight. They explain that one-star players are ordinary people who have never been to a war or fought. However, the guy replies that for their survival they will have to fight. When one of the members approached to Han to inquire about something, Han refused to waste his time on him. In response, the new member grabbed Han by the collar, but Han easily sent him to the floor with a single punch. He added that they hid behind the backs of the team while the others fought. The 3 new members did not appear. They apparently decided to look for a way out of this world, assuming that such a way exists. At that time, Han and Jenna continued to hone their skills. Suddenly, an arrow from a bow hit Han's leg. but the wound healed quickly. Han said that the pain is not a problem, it means that he is still alive and he's gained new skills. In this regard, Han suggested that they quickly gather in the square. The new members were still unhappy and wanted to be let go, but Isel was furious and attacked them despite her swollen face and bruise under her eyes. Wanted to be let go, but Isel was furious and attacked them. They were forced to enter the battlefield on the third floor, where there were no new tasks, but it was necessary to destroy all the enemies. Once again they faced the goblins, but with their improved powers and skills, Han told them not to worry and to act like they did in training. The fight on the third floor turned out to be very easy. They quickly dealt with all the enemies and received a reward. The guy was even bored, but the three newcomers were still just standing there. The master sent them to go through the previous dungeon again, and they again find themselves on the first floor, where they encounter the same monsters as before. The floor was cleared, but the master was not going to give them a break. The team cleared the third floor again and moved on to it. The master did not pay attention to the new members, but suddenly the process of synthesis began. The new members didn't understand what was going on and needed to move the heroes that the master was willing to sacrifice in order to continue. Jenna and Elsons were selected to be sent to Cindy's Hall. Han said that everything would be alright and nothing would happen to the girl. They asked what would happen if they went in there, and the guy replied that he would get what he deserved. The synthesis process has begun and Jenna has increased her level, having received the Eagle Eye skill. She was confused and said that the guy just disappeared, but he explained that they were just getting rid of useless heroes. Then the little screaming fairy called Isel said that Han and Toby must go inside the synthesis hall, and the process was completed. Toby disappeared into the bright light, and Han gained a new skill called Blood and increased his level. The third participant was lucky because if the master decides that the hero is no longer needed, then he will simply disappear into the room. The girl thought that she must become unnecessary to the master, but the guy replied that there were nothing they could do, since with each floor the monsters and heroes summoned by the master become stronger, and they will either die in a battle or during the synthesis. The new member apologized and decided to join the team. He chose the spear, the easiest weapon to master for close, medium, and long-range strategy. He knew that a sword was for the close combat, a spear for medium combat, and a bow for long-ranged combat. He chose the spear, the easiest weapon to master for close, medium, and long-range strategy. He knew that a sword was for the close combat, a spear for medium combat, and a bow for long-ranged combat. Now the team had all positions closed for 3 people, and although they were not ready, it was the best combination. The new member thought the newly joined members were not in the mood for battle. Some of them even began to do completely different things. One became a cook, the other a carpenter. But their talents were to create weapons for new characters, Han and Gina. The master tirelessly collected new fighters, and each subsequent level turned out to be much more difficult than the previous one. The next call was waiting on the 5th floor, and it was much more dangerous than anything before. Han himself did not know if he could survive this task. For a long time, the master was absent for the game, and the participants used this time to train and prepare for battle. And now they were again thrown to the fourth floor. Han decided not to take an active part and provide an opportunity for newcomers to earn points and level up. Once on the fifth floor, no one could figure out where the enemies were. The city was completely empty, but when Han asked Gina to climb the only tower in the city, she couldn't believe her eyes. She stood motionless for a few seconds, for what she saw shook her to the core. Thousands of goblins were heading into the city to attack them. They were very angry and fast. The Han ordered everyone to run into a narrow alley so that the goblins could not break through. They began to build barricades, each occupying his flank. Gina stood in the middle and had to shoot from her bow only at the command of Han, so as not to waste arrows in vain. It wasn't just another obstacle like on the previous floors. They had to play for survival. They were supposed to last 30 minutes from the moment they first encountered the goblin. During the battle, unforeseen difficulties arose. Infinite number of goblins ran through the barricades, and there were only 5 participants: Hannah, Jane, Heat, Helsen, and Aaron. Han gave orders to the others, and Heat had to replace the wounded and Helsen, who were experiencing bleeding fear. If Hyde could not take this place, they were all in danger of death. All participants in the battle felt that the time on the clock dragged on slowly like an eternity, and their strength was already depleted. The goblins, on the other hand, did not give in. They were fierce and courageous. This was caused not only by their high level, but also by the technique they used. Hanson, one of the participants, was overexcited and expended too much energy on his attacks. He realized that the one-hit one monster tactic was the most effective, but there were too many of them. It seemed that their darkness knew no fear. The wife, while collecting her remaining arrows, realized that she needed to kill the goblins who could break through their defenses. Guide, who was on the verge of death, risked his life. Jenna, not knowing what to do, saw Guide die before her eyes. However, she had to keep fighting, and her skill increased. As a result, Hansen also felt that his life was in danger. Han, Aaron, and Gina decided to move to another part of the battlefield, hoping for a new strategy. Jenna had to climb the wall to be the first to come forward. However, the meeting with another boys was no less difficult, and one blow from the goblin was not enough. The girl, left without a spear, felt despair. There were only 30 seconds left, and the goblins were pouring in, from all sides. But suddenly they disappeared as if evaporated. The girl asked her partner if each next floor would be as difficult. He replied that for a well coordinated team, such a level would not present big problems. Successful completion of this level depended on the work of each participant. If Guide and Hanson were a little stronger, it might be much easier for them. Upon returning home, the guy met with another participant who did not take part in the battle but was engaged in maintaining order and cooking at home. He asked about the whereabouts of Guide and Hansen and assumed they were still in the tower. However, Han reported that they were dead. This news shocked the guy. The master called all the heroes who were to go through the tower, and each of them had to come to the meeting. The guy thought that he didn't care much about the deaths of other participants on the front line, since conquering the Death Tower was becoming a routine for him. He received new skills, composure and breaths, but realized that they are incompatible. The first helped him to remain calm in any situation, and the second offered to exchange sanity for combat power. Perhaps this was due to his semi heroic, semi masterful nature. The next day, Han met his partner who was training. He asked her why she got up so early, considering that she usually slept until noon. She replied that she wants to live life to the fullest, so she needs to exercise more. She got a new skill yesterday and she was talented and hardworking. However, Aaron was not rewarded even for his hard work. Han remarked that Guide and Hanson could help them more if they had more time, but unfortunately there were not enough time for this. Aaron blamed himself for the death of the guys and believed that they died because of their own weakness. It had already been a month since they had arrived at this place, but in the real world it had only been 10 days. Han figured out that periodicity of the appearance of the master in the game, they came in the morning, afternoon, and night. The difference between game time and real time was 3 times. If the game time coincided with the real time, the survival task would not last half an hour, but 1.5, and then they would probably already be dead. Fairy Azil politely addressed Han and Gina, but Gina did not understand why she was acting so strangely. Han replied that it was a company secret. A fourth group was formed, consisting of Han, Gina, Lewis, Geoffrey, and Owen. Han explained that they needed to go to the rift of time and space now. Gina was shocked as she didn't even know about these heroes, and they weren't ready for the task. Their goal was to collect materials and return at the specific time. Han said that the newcomers would have to fight. Once there, Gina did not see the enemies and thought that this was a special task. However, it turned out that these were daily dungeons where materials had to be collected. Han explained that the trash can is like a storage that you can throw collected items such as branches into and it will absorb them, creating new items. A branch can turn into a log for which you need a carpentry machine. The group did not know if they needed to fight or just collect items, but it didn't matter to Gina, and they went hunting. Suddenly, they found prey, and Gina exclaimed in delight. Han asked her if she knew how to cut meat, and it turned out that she did it perfectly, watching her dad. He told her to pour out all the blood, open the belly, and take out the insides. Then he told her not to leave anything when he was done. Han decided to separate from Gina and go elsewhere. There was only half an hour left before returning to the settlement when time was up. He found himself in the dungeon forest where he can meet rare monsters and get materials to improve hero. Han stumbled upon the queen of the forest and stood in front of her, telling her that all her friends had died. He was waiting for her to attack him. At this time, two new fighters appeared, who at first glance seemed to be monsters, but it turned out that it was Han, and on his shoulder was a prey, a huge deer. During this time, the girl managed to collect two deer and one wild bear. There should be enough meat for everyone. The girl noticed that one of the deer was a female, identifying this by the presence of one head. Han thought that Gina had gained the skill of a forest hunter and it would be easy for her to increase her rank. With each new day, new opportunities opened up for Han and Gina. This time, the Sinmel Plateau was able to them, where they could also get attribute stones. They went to a low-level dungeon consisting of only two temporary group members. The girl asked if it was true that they could become stronger in these dungeons. The guy replied that for this they needed attribute stones, and it only remained to find them. The dungeon was incredibly beautiful. The rocks were strewn with flowers, which were called the flowers of life. The guy had seen them before, and he knew that they were the basis for health potions. He will have to collect some of these flowers for future needs. Suddenly, out of nowhere, they were attacked by monsters that turned out to be wolves. Although they dealt with one of them quickly, the rest could smell the blood and began to approach. They needed to speed up. During the struggle, Han received another attribute stone called water. This attribute skill associated with one of the elements was filled with plateau energy. It was used to create items and increase the rank of heroes. Gina remarked that it would be great if it was always so easy to just hunt and collect resources. It would be a real paradise, if not for the master. She thought that the master would never come again, and she had a hope for it. The guy asked her if she wanted to fight and not necessarily do it all her life. He offered her other possibilities and said that the synthesis no longer threatened her. A few days after the opening of the sixth floor, the time has come for the next unique task: reconnaissance of one unfamiliar location. A new guy named Dika has joined the group, assuring everyone that they can rely on him. However, this mission was far from ordinary, and reconnaissance presented an unusual challenge. Like the fifth floor, the sixth floor was also initially invisible. Noticing this, the group realized that the successful completion of the task would allow them to safely leave this floor without engaging in a fight with monsters. On the sixth floor, they found level 8 goblins, and their number was only 3. However, they realized that there must be help somewhere nearby. Gina decided to climb a tree so that a view from above would help her find a clue. She noted there were settlements of goblins nearby, and their number was well over 100. The hen quickly realized that they had fallen into a trap, and the goblins surrounded them for sure. If they decide to join the fight, they must distribute their tasks for a better battle for them and for surviving. The goblin on the right will chase for the girl, and she will be the first to attack. And when he is distracted, Aaron, another participant of the group of Han, will need to deal with the third goblin. So the mission was not to attract more goblins. At this time, the hen will cover them in the case of preparing for the start of the battle. And so the fight began. The goblin grabbed his weapon, but before he could make a sound for the help, the hen immediately pounced on him. Reinforcements will not come. The goblin shouted, realizing his inevitability. And so they successfully cleared the level and got 5,000 gold. It was a nice reward for this floor and for group of hen. Now it's time to look around and make sure there are no other enemies and they are in safe and could exit this floor. They searched for a clue about the next floor, realizing that a reconnaissance mission might help them predict what the future holds. All events were mostly random, but they hoped that with the help of some observation, it would be possible to predict some little things and get additional information that will help them in the future. The hen approached the goblin village and thought about its sheer size. His thoughts were interrupted by one of the goblins, who noticed his presence and suddenly ran away. Such hints are often found in the main dungeons. The cast chain that begins with explosion is called flow. It depends on the attentiveness of the master, whether he will understand test tips or not. I don't know if Hen has seen them, and that annoys me. The flow is moving too fast, faster than I expected, the guy thought. Suddenly, the girl screamed about some problems that they had at home in a time when Hen was fighting with Gina and other participants of the group. They were attacked by strangers at this time with weapons, and they were very strange, the girl said to the hen. Hen could not understand what is going on. These were high-ranking heroes. Hen asked the fairy if the master had invested money, and the answer of the fairy was positive. The fairy replied that he had purchased a beginner's kit. The guy told the girl to go back to the kitchen and that they would do anything just a little bit special just yet, so they are not dangerous for other people. They are just new participants that were purchased by the master, and now the group became bigger. While his group can relax, but in general nothing will change for the appearance of newcomers, Han noticed and passed this information to another group. Jenna met a girl from another group and said hello. She introduced herself as Edis and introduced Han to herself as well. She said Han looked indifferent but was actually kind. The girl turned out to be a thief with little strength and health, but she had high dexterity. Han invited the girl to talk and asked if she knew anything about the place where they were. She replied neutrally that she knew something but not everything. He asked if she remembered how she got here, to which she replied in the negative. She said that all she knew was she had been called her to fight, and hurt when she tried to remember the details. The guy also asked her if she knew what synthesis was, and she correctly answered that it was strengthening by absorbing others. Han noticed that the different ranks of people have different amounts of information, and judging by her equipment, she used to be a mercenary. She confirmed that she was part of the Walls of Destruction group. The new group was called to the square, and they were told that the master needed them. The newcomers to Han's group felt threatened by the new group, as they looked strange and were armed. Han asked Gina what she thought of the new people, and she replied that they seemed normal, but it was hard to tell about the others. Other people in the group had a lot of time to learn something, but they only practiced it when the master came. Now they were asking for the help from the stronger people, which some didn't like, and they spoke about it directly. The only things that people thought about was how to